You might think this life sounds exciting. A gun to guide you and a cigarette always nearby. With no rules and no place to stay, it feels like pure freedom. But the truth is, out here, freedom doesn't feel like flying. It feels like falling, slowly, quietly, and endless, with nothing to catch you in the empty space around you. All you're left with is the echo of who you used to be. The real feeling out here isn't adventure, it's hunger. Not hunger for food, but you begin to crave something steady, something real. But instead of finding that, you get a cold bed, a heavy silence, and a crew of people who feel more like strangers than friends. Some are still breathing and some aren't, but all of them are running from something. The sound of the ship's engine doesn't block out the silence at all. The jobs don't fix it either. No matter how fast you go, the quiet always catches up to you. And when it does, it doesn't knock. It just sinks in and stays. It always starts with a job. One mission had you chasing a man with tired red eyes and a woman who talked about starting a new life on Mars. She thought she could escape, but before anyone could stop her, she pulled the trigger on herself and stepped right into a wall of bullets. She killed the dream before anyone else could, and in the end, there was no bounty, no justice, just two people who tried to get away and ended up dead and forgotten like so many others. There's no time to grieve though. There's always another name, another mission, another mess to clean up. The job involved a thief, a suitcase, and a dog. Strangely, the dog was the only one who stayed. He didn't speak, but he was smart and became the best company that you've had in years. After that, a gambler joined your crew. They had more debt than patience and a past they refused to talk about. You didn't ask questions, you let them stay. You told yourself that being close to people meant something, but the longer they were around you, the more you realized maybe it truly didn't. The jobs got stranger, astronomically stranger. One day, it's your typical mission. The next, you are dealing with people who turned humans into monkeys. And another day, you met a kid who hadn't aged in decades, frozen in time by a disaster from long ago. In the face of that moment, you were forced to do something to a child you never thought you would. You ended his life, but he thanked you for it. That moment stuck with you though, because you knew deep down that living forever in a world like this would be way worse than dying. And no matter how hard it was to pull that trigger, you're also so destroyed by this world that it makes you able to shoulder that weight. And despite the harsh reality this world comes with, you kept trying to make life work. You met a truck driver who sang old songs and helped you fight off smugglers. And yeah, his voice might have been something only a mother could love, but still, it's different from what you're used to. You even once met a man whose only wish was to buy new eyes for his blind sister, an amount of passion that was genuinely refreshing to see, showing that even though this world is cursed, people are still finding ways to be hopeful. He still ended up dying though, but it was while doing the right thing, and he wouldn't be the last person you'd watch fall while trying to protect something good. Eventually, you let a young hacker onto your ship, a kid with a wild spirit and a brilliant mind. They broke your routines and quite frankly messed with the systems that you gotten used to. But somehow their energy actually made the ship feel alive again. It was messy and loud and everything nobody above the age of 25 would have wanted. However, it was the closest you'd felt to being human in such a long time. And that feeling didn't last at all. It never does. As soon as you found yourself smiling, you also found yourself on a planet that smelled like rust and salt. There you saw someone that you once cared about, someone you had feelings for, maybe even loved. And almost as if it was a cruel joke, it seemed that she had moved on from you. She's changed and you haven't. You shared a quiet drink with her and a glance that said more than words ever could. And then, just like you got there, abruptly, you left, just like you always do. And leaving was the only thing you ever got good at, unfortunately. It was a useful tool for you, but just for this once. But the insult, the injury, the embarrassment, and every other negative thing doesn't stop there. That would be too easy. So later, the ship, yes, the ship, almost killed you, not from a gunfight, but from a container of rotten food. A parasite spread through the ship, making the crew sick one by one. It turned out to be your fault because, you left something in the fridge too long. You laughed it off, but the laugh felt empty as a glaring problem started to arise in your thoughts, saying, sometimes the things you forget to deal with end up doing the most damage, and that goes for way more than just food. The lesson sits on your brain as days went on and time becomes a blur. One day, you were stuck on a frozen moon facing someone who used to be a teammate. Another day, you were playing chess with an old hacker who smiled after losing and then died right there at the table. There was no reward, just another quiet death on your resume. And to add to that, one of your new crew found an old video of themselves as a child. It was a birthday message from a version of them they didn't even recognize anymore. You all watched it together in silence. No one cried, but the sadness was heavy in the air. It was like grieving for the person they used to be and who you used to be. And just like that, soon after, one by one, people started leaving. The kid left first, saying they wanted to find something real, and you didn't stop them. Or more like you couldn't stop them. And then the gambler left, chasing a family they barely remembered. You didn't ask him to stay either, just lit another cigarette and stared at their empty seat. The quiet that followed wasn't peaceful, it was final, it was conclusional. That was when you realized the silence had never meant you were safe. It just meant you were alone. You'd been running for so long, you forgot how to stop. That's what you tell yourself. But eventually, your past came back. The crime group that you ended up escaping pulled you back in again. A man you once saw as a brother was waiting there for you, and so was she. The woman. Nobody is keeping track of the wrong decisions except for you, but for once, it'd be nice to save someone just for yourself. And although you tried and you gave everything you could, you tried to save her, but unfortunately you failed. She died in your arms, eyes full of regret. Still, you kept fighting, not because you had anything to protect, but because you had nothing left to lose. You fought your way through a tower, cutting down enemies as you bled from wounds that would never fully heal. You killed the man who ruined your life, and he killed you too, honestly. You collapsed on the cold floor, raised one finger to the sky, not as a win, not even as a goodbye, just an end. There were good moments, times when you laughed over mushrooms, you watched people reconnect with their past, you fixed up your ship with someone who still remembered your name, you saw a child smile at an old video, and you sat under snowy skies that somehow felt warmer than the world around you. But the good moments here are thin, they don't last. Every laugh was followed by a goodbye. Every joy came with pain, hunger, death, loneliness, betrayal. These things were always right behind you in this world. This world that isn't evil, it's just empty. It keeps spinning no matter who gets left behind. People aren't mean here, they're just tired of hoping, tired of trying, tired of pretending anything still matters. And that's when you notice something about yourself. You're not brave. You're just too numb to feel scared anymore. The world has been slowly hollowing you out until all that's left is something that looks like a person but doesn't feel like one. And after a while, even that stops bothering you. If someone asked you what this life was like, this drifting between planets and jobs, you'd probably pause. Not because you don't know the answer, but because the truth is so heavy that you'd have to tell them this isn't freedom. It's just being alone. It's having no roots. It's having no ties. It's having no one who'd notice if you disappeared the next day. The stars are pretty, yes, but they don't warm you. The ship belongs to you, but it never feels like it's your home. In the silence, at first it feels peaceful, but eventually it starts whispering the echoes of every single thing that you've lost. And yes, you can try to fill the emptiness with noise, with music, with fighting or smoking. You can even pretend it's progress, but late at night when the engine goes quiet, you remember you built your life to avoid pain, and all you got in return was a quieter version of sadness. So no, You wouldn't recommend this life. Not unless someone had already lost every single thing that made them human. Not unless they already stopped searching for a place to call home, because out here, you don't live, you drift. And the longer you drift, the more of yourself that you lose. Your laugh, your kindness, your name in someone else's mouth, forgotten, until one day, even the part of you that cared about holding on starts to realize that it's only holding on to a crooked picture.